It all kicked off in the sleepy little town of Mattoon, Illinois, back in the summer of 1944, a time when fear hung in the air like a thick fog. The world was caught up in a brutal war, with headlines blaring about bombs, poison gas, and hidden threats lurking everywhere. But Mattoon, it was meant to be a safe haven, a charming, working-class town surrounded by endless cornfields and peaceful, winding roads. Then, out of nowhere, the gas rolled in, and everything flipped upside down in the blink of an eye. The first report came on the night of August 31st. Picture this. A woman named Mrs. Kearney woke up around midnight, her senses jolted by a strange, sweet smell wafting through her bedroom. It wasn't the usual gas smell from the stove. No, this was something else entirely, sickly sweet, like cheap perfume mixed with a hint of chemicals. With her husband away on the night shift, she was alone with her kids, and that's when the real panic set in. Moments later, she tried to move, but her body felt like it was weighed down by lead. Her legs were heavy, her throat burned like fire, and a weird tingling sensation spread across her skin. Imagine the fear coursing through her. She realized she couldn't even speak. Somehow, she mustered the strength to pull herself out of bed, fling open the window, and gasp for fresh air. By morning, the paralysis had faded, but the fear, that settled deep, like a shadow lurking in the corners of her mind. She told her sister, her neighbors, and the police. Someone had tried to gas her in her sleep. At first, people just chuckled it off, thinking she'd had a wild nightmare or something. But then it happened again, and that's when things got real. The very next night, just a few blocks away, another woman, a Mrs. Cords, experienced the same eerie situation. She reported this strange, chemical smell that hit her out of nowhere, leaving her feeling queasy and weak. Her daughter even claimed she spotted a tall man in dark clothing lurking outside their window, and that definitely raised the stakes. And then, boom, another call came in, and another. The whole town was buzzing with fear and confusion, like a beehive stirred up. By the end of the week, Mattoon was in total chaos. Neighbors were on high alert, claiming they'd seen the shadowy figure slipping between houses, tall, dressed in black with what looked like a mask or tight-fitting cap. Some folks swore he carried a spray gun, while others insisted it was just a rag or some small device. No one could agree on his face, but everyone was united in one thing. He was real, and he was out there. The newspapers jumped on the story, dubbing him the Mad Gasser of Mattoon, and suddenly everyone wanted to know more. Headlines screamed, "Mystery gas attacker terrorizes town. Woman paralyzed by unknown vapor. Police patrols increased. Residents nailed their windows shut. Men stayed awake all night with shotguns." And women, especially those home alone, refused to sleep. Every creak of the floorboards, every breeze through an open vent, it all felt like him. Theories exploded like wildfire. Some said the gasser was a mad scientist experimenting on townsfolk. Others believed he was an escaped convict or a soldier gone insane from war. A few claimed he was a Nazi saboteur. The war had everyone on edge, and fear was contagious. And then came the reports of footprints, strange prints found in flower beds beneath open windows. Empty lipstick tubes, thought to be makeshift spray canisters, discovered in yards. One family even found a cloth soaked in an unknown liquid near their porch. Tests on the cloth came back inconclusive. The chemical had evaporated. By September 10th, there had been over 24 reports of gas attacks. Victims described similar symptoms: nausea, burning eyes, temporary paralysis, and panic. Some swore they'd seen a blue mist fill their rooms before passing out. Others heard footsteps, running, just after the smell hit. Police tried everything. They patrolled the streets, set up night watches, questioned suspects. At one point, they arrested a man carrying a flashlight and a spray gun. But the gun turned out to be a flit sprayer for killing insects. He was released. The police chief eventually told reporters the whole thing was mass hysteria. But Mattoon didn't buy it because the fear was real, and some folks swore they actually saw him. One of the most chilling stories comes from a woman named Mrs. Bulicords. Picture this. Late one night, she comes home and spots a small, wet cloth just sitting on her porch. Curiosity gets the best of her, and when she picks it up, she feels an immediate tingle. Then, bam, her face goes completely numb. Her lips and tongue swell up like balloons, her throat feels like it's on fire, and she collapses right there. Can you imagine the panic? She barely manages to crawl inside before losing consciousness. When the police finally show up, there's no sign of the attacker, just that same sickly sweet chemical smell hanging in the air like a ghost. And across town, at nearly the same time, another report came in, then another, 3 attacks. Same hour? Different neighborhoods? Was there more than one gasser? As panic peaked, the Mattoon Journal-Gazette published daily updates, interviews, warnings, sightings. One article claimed the gas was a mix of chloroform and ether. Another hinted that the attacker could be a woman disguised as a man. Rumors spread that the gasser drove a black car, that he had connections inside the town, that the police were covering something up. People began barricading doors. Farmers set traps around their houses. A local radio station even played emergency announcements urging residents to stay calm, but that only made it worse. Fear had taken on a life of its own. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. No one knows why. After 2 weeks of nightly terror, the attacks ended. The police issued a final statement claiming there had been no real gasser, only mass hysteria fueled by wartime anxiety and sensational news coverage. They pointed out inconsistencies. No two victims described the same smell, symptoms varied wildly, and physical evidence was weak. But many in Mattoon didn't believe that. They knew what they smelled, what they saw. Years later, psychologists revisited the case as a textbook example of collective delusion. They argued that the fear of gas attacks from World War II, combined with the power of suggestion, caused people to literally experience symptoms from stress and imagination alone. But skeptics of that explanation point to the physical traces, the matching time patterns, the witnesses who didn't know each other but described the same masked figure. If it was hysteria, it was a strangely coordinated one. Decades have passed, and Mattoon is quiet again. But old residents still whisper about that summer, how every night smelled faintly of something chemical, and the wine seemed to carry fear itself. Some even claim that the Mad Gasser returned years later in nearby towns, fleeting reports of strange odors, paralysis, and shadows moving in the dark. The identity of the Mad Gasser was never proven. No one was ever caught. And to this day, no one knows if it was a person, a collective panic, or something else that moved through Mattoon that year, silent, invisible, and unstoppable.